This is McDougal Street about what year?
1962, 63.
And as is our wont here at Revolting, well, first let me introduce the cast of characters. I'm Tuli, you all know me. And the guy behind the camera is is Norman Savitt. He's our resident cameraman, engineer, folk music habitué, and Greenwich Village inhabitant. You want to appear before your camera so everyone
Just
knows?
momentarily. I'm more of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy.
Yeah, well, that's what they all
Something
say
about my
first.
works, I think. Hi, boys and girls.
This is Oscar Young, the kid brother of the. We'll get you can. All right.
Hi.
The kid brother of the guy who's passing through. You know that folk song, passing through, right?
I'm here just to make sure that he doesn't say anything embarrassing about the family.
Oh well, we want to have a good show. I don't know if we.
My mother was a saint.
Okay, it's real young. Passing through. This is our wont here at Revolting News. We like to interview people who are passing through. He's here from Sweden. Came here to star in Vaudeville and Follies. And
Tucker, that's right.
And Israel Young was the proprietor of this institution, important institution, and among many other things.
Wait, that was 59-60, not 62-63.
And he's a folklorist, starring in a Morris dancer, a bon vivant, and a radical expatriate, and an all-around good guy, right? Good old boy. Originally from the Bronx. What are the Bronx? You ever hear that? And now he's an inmate of Stockholm. So, came back here to take part in the Dylan movie.
Well, not only that, he paid for the trip, which is the story of my life. Like, I was a folkie in Greenwich Village. I wasn't born in the Bronx. I was born in Lower Manhattan, 110 Ludlow Street.
I was born there too.
And it's still there, and it took 30 years to move from 110 Ludlow Street to 110 McDougal Street. It took 30 years to make that move.
So when did you move to the Bronx?
Well, very early on. And in fact, if my memory is right, we lived in more places in the Bronx than I remember. And I think we lived in places 3 months at a time or 6 months at a time. And that was, we would get 3 months free rent.
Exactly.
And then we moved after the 3 months.
It was the Depression. So
was
what
the
year were you
Depression.
born?
1928.
And your parents were from the old country.
My father was born in Poland, and he came to America in 1905. My mother was born in Poland, and she came to America in 1926 or 27, just before I was born.
And what was their profession when they came here? How old were they?
My mother was a housewife. My father was born in 1892, and my mother was born in 1905 in Lodz, in a big city. My father was born in Bierishov, a tiny little town close to the German border. So like when my father grew up, well, Polish was illegal. He learned Russian in school, Polish on the street, and Yiddish and Hebrew at home. And then he had to learn German because he was smuggling goods from Poland to Germany.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not fucking lie.
Well, my father told me the story. I'll
Stop
tell
it,
you the
you
story.
make up
He
stories.
sounds just like my parents.
Nuts.
Really.
He used to take matches through the forest to Germany and bring
My
back a pair of
father was
pants.
Bring back fires.
Bring back a pair.
My father was afraid to pee in the forest because he would be locked up for exposure or something.
I'll tell you what kind of a liar my father was.
All right, what kind was it?
Well, my father told me when I was a kid that he saw Naftali Imba
Yeah.
drunk, he wrote the Hatikva. He
On
saw
the
him.
east side.
He saw him drunk on the east
He
side.
was a notorious roue and a bohemian, Naphtali, and I believe every word your father said.
Well, my father came from America in 1905, and I find out recently, I was looking up something, that Imba died in Philadelphia in 1895 and 1898.
You know what? You know what the editor
You know that,
of
huh?
the New York Herald said in the 19th century? He said, many a good story, remember my son, many a good story has been killed by over-verification.
That's great. I thought Alan Lomax had the copyright on it.
So, you lived in the Bronx till you were,
20.
what do you remember of those times? Were they pleasant? What did your father was a baker, I
My
understand.
father's a baker.
Did he work for other people? Did he have his own place? Or both?
They had a concept they called baker boss. So a worker belonged to the union, and a worker could be a worker for 10 years, then buy a bakery, be a boss, baker boss for 2 or 3 years, go back. The lines weren't so clear. It moved back and forth.
So when
pretty rapidly.
when he owned his own shop, was he still a union member? No.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's an interesting idea.
But
Well,
because
he lost all his union benefits because he
I
owned
see.
his own shop. It
Well-
was all bastardized. And that
So-
people-
Well, there is such a thing as like worker ownership, co-op ownership. This is sort of somewhere in between.
So
yeah,
when we were
now
kids-
the union is non-existent.
Yeah,
anymore.
by now we're talking.
my father didn't
We're
own,
talking
my father
18.
didn't own a bakery when we were growing up.
Uh-huh.
But
Sorry.
when I was 20, then the family bought a Shomer Shabbos closed on Saturday bakery in Brooklyn.
And did you work in that?
I worked at it, Oscar worked at it.
And
The
did-
thing I'm
were you
sorry
both-
about is Oscar learned how to bake,
Yeah.
and I was in the front with a shirt and bow tie. I was the seller.
Do you still bake?
Just not commercially, just at home.
Yeah, you enjoy that.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so you were educated?
Well, I
No.
went to junior high school 55 on Washington Avenue, 165th Street, which is a project now. And I was the one or two kids in that school that went to the High School of Science.
Bronx High School, was it called Bronx High School?
The Bronx High School of Science, which was only for boys then. Now they have girls there, so I don't know how they sing the song
And for
anymore.
smart boys.
We're the boys of Science High, hear the song we raise. Hearts and voices all unite, Science High to praise. Forward with the banner of gold, forward with the green and gold. We're the boys of Science High. Da, da, da. So what do they sing now? We're the boys and girls of Science High?
I don't think they sing at Science High anymore. I think all they do is they study for the MCAT.
But I'll tell you, the thing that I should have done was,
that.
it was
No,
a
they sing
mistake.
the Chinese national anthem there now.
It was a mistake.
That is, the Chinese culture is older than the American. I'll let you in on a secret, and they do better than.
They do much better.
It was a
But
serious
at a
mistake.
price they pay, you know, they all know. No, I shouldn't say this. Just because you do better, I'll tell you a story. My son went to Hunter High School, Hunter College High School, another school for smart kids like Bronx Science. So it's Parents Week, and this Asian comes in, and he's talking to the head of the math department. He said, "How come my son only got 96 on the exam?" And the teacher just sort of accepted that as a, you know, a normal question.
Only 96?
Yeah.
My mother would have been happy. No, Papa would have been happy with 96.
All right,
That's a great story.
But it was my first serious mistake in life.
Yeah.
I should have gone to music and art.
Yeah.
Then I would have begun my sexual career at a much earlier age.
My daughter went there. I don't know when she began, but
And I was ending up in folk music anyway, and I was doing lousy as a scientist. I was supposed to be a doctor, and it never would have worked out.
what about you? Were you supposed to be a doctor?
Mechanical engineer.
What about you? Supposed to be?
I was supposed to be a soldier like my father, and I was very impressed with his stories, and I joined the Army at a very early age, and that was it.
Listen, we're going back to history. My father came to America to get out of the Russian army, you know, the Tsar's army. And the first thing he did was join the American army. And my father went down to Mexico to chase Pancho Villa with Colonel Pershing.
Captain Pershing.
What?
Captain Pershing.
Captain Pershing. And they're going into Mexico. I don't know if it's illegal or illegal what they did, but they go into Mexico to search
You mean
out
war is legal?
Pancho Villa. And there's a camp. My father's in a camp with one or two other people. He's in camp while Captain Pershing's out with 6 soldiers chasing Pancho Villa, whose wife died the other day, at the age of 100. wants to be his wife.
Really?
And my father learned first Spanish, it says there. He's sitting there making, cornbread, muffins, whatever, for the soldiers to come back. And he hears some kids in the background saying, "Morto el gringo." So my father figured out. That was my father figured, maybe we should be in Mexico, maybe we should go back. My father's a brave one.
It's funny, I know someone, Sam Wiener, who's also the son of Jewish immigrants, who also enlisted in the Army, also went to Mexico. And he became an incredibly flaming anarchist radical. What was your father's politics in the end?
He was like a Bundes or something in Europe. He never really had a clear, he liked Jabotinsky, didn't he, Papa?
Yeah?
Pop was the biggest war hawk that ever lived. He was the only Jew that I knew that joined the Republican Party.
And you know what else?
Yeah.
When American workers were making money out of World War II after the bomb dropped in Hawaii, my father was a patriot. And my father went to Pearl Harbor
What for?
to work
With the
building
Army.
up oil lines and things.
When did you enlist in the Army?
I was all over. I was in the end of 45.
And my mother worked in a Chinese restaurant on Washington Avenue in the Bronx during the war while my father was at Pearl Harbor.
So, everyone traveled everywhere the work was. So, you left...
Worked $45 a month when everyone was making $150 a week.
When, so you left, you graduated from Bronx High,
Yeah.
and how did you become interested in folk music?
Purely by accident. I was a bookish kid. I used to hang around bookstores on 4th Avenue. I liked science. In fact, I used to hang around the Museum of Modern Natural History Museum. And I was a member of the Junior Astronomy Club. I used to meet Clyde Fisher there, and he would take us in the back there, show us how.
Clyde Fisher, who's that?
He was the head of the planetarium, and he had a great library there. And I was still thinking of being a scientist, or being told I should be a scientist, or being a doctor. And this girl, Elsie Peterson, Norwegian blood, we go to Central Park to watch the movements of the moon or something. Can you imagine watching?
Yeah, that's what you told her mother.
And it was like now, it was misty, rainy. So this Elsie said to me, "Let's go square dancing." I said, "Square dancing? You know who I am?"
How old were you then?
About 17, 18. So we went to Ethical Culture Society on Central Park West. That was the hideout for Jews that weren't Jews anymore. With a little bit of Jesus, but not too much. A little bit of religion, but not too much.
Fly like an eagle, scream like a vulture. Rah, rah, rah for ethical culture. Yeah, go on.
So that was the first time I ever watched square dancing. And then from there, I was there once. And the first dance I did was a Swedish folk dance. A toast we pledge to Guster brave and true. A toast we pledge to Guster brave and true. A little quadrille. Then a week later, Elsie tells me about this place, Margot Mayer, the American Square Dance Group. I go there, and within a week, I think I am the best square dancer America ever had.
Well, you were probably pretty good if you could think that.
And 3 weeks later, they made a film for the Office of War Information or the State Department of innocent American square dancing we sent overseas.
So the war was on already?
The war was still on or ending or whatever. And I was so pissed off that I wasn't in that film. And so I thought I was the best square dancer in America. So I joined the group, and that's what loused up my future life in music. We would have meetings in a room this large, or a little larger actually, and we would square dance. And we would dance for 3 hours, and we paid 25 cents a night or $3 a year membership, whichever was cheaper. I think I paid 25 cents this time already. But I didn't have $3 at a time at those days. And afterwards, we would have song sessions. And who would come down? Richard Bennett, Pete Seeger, Josh White, Woody Guthrie was there once, Leadbelly, Tony Craver.
So this was around 1945?
44, 45.
Uh-huh.
So I got used to meeting people on a person, Frank Warner.
And they would play like for free?
Yeah, it was like a party.
Uh-huh.
And
There
then
was
we would have
one
a
name you
Christmas.
didn't mention.
What?
There was one name you
Who?
didn't mention that Mom always cursed out. Margaret Mayo.
Margot, well, she was the leader of the group. My mother didn't like
If it
it.
wasn't for Margaret, he would be our doctor today.
Oh, you mean she
That's
seducted
true.
you?
My mother hated Margot Mayo. Because if I didn't meet Margot Mayo, I would be a doctor now. So, could be true. So,
Finster, you were.
Yeah.
so anyway,
you weren't romantically involved with her. It was just that she had this cultural influence
a
on you.
very big cultural influence on me. Except that I didn't know at the time that all these people were working in front organizations with the Communist Party, back front organizations with the Communist
Right.
Party. I was surrounded by communists. And at that time, I could go out with girls. Now sometimes I could write a book about my mother and father, blaming them for me not really having a real good sex life until I was 29. I could blame them for it. You know, and everyone was writing books like that, blaming their parents for all the shit that they didn't do.
Yeah.
But my brother started at a very early age, and he came from the same background, so I can't blame Mom and Papa.
Only up on the roof
No, that
in the
isn't-
Bronx.
That isn't
And
true.
they taught us how to jerk off.
Who taught you? Your parents?
No, a bunch of kids.
Yeah, across the street, yeah.
I
Up on
learned
top
from
of
my
the roof,
cousin.
and we had
I discovered it myself, but my cousin encouraged me. I could tell you stories about
It was a bad influence
raw
on you?
liver.
You
I
had a
don't want
bad influence?
Oh, raw liver, that was the greatest.
I wouldn't. And then all you do is wash the liver and put it back in the
Wash
refrigerator.
Yeah, right. Gebrutene Leber mit Syphilis.
No wonder I'm a vegetarian. So,
No wonder I've
So
never
anyway,
had food.
You never
I
brought
was-
a sheep up to the roof.
what? And
You
the
never
roof?
brought a sheep.
I come out of a working class family,
Yeah.
and I'm against the working class. And I go to these hootenannies.
You mean you got that from your parents? Why were you against the working class? Why weren't you just sort of neutral?
I don't know.
All right.
Because every girl I would meet was either a member of the Young Communist League, YCL, or American Youth for Democracy,
Right.
AYD. All the bright people. And where was I? I didn't know anything about this kind of stuff. You know, I never was invited to go to their parties, never invited to anything. I was an outsider. But something in me didn't like the idea of organized communism without understanding it, because I didn't know what was going on. And then I found out a lot about in Sweden, how that works. So I go to a first hootenanny, and Pete Seeger is singing there, and he's singing, "Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the Union, I'm sticking to the Union, I'm sticking to the Union. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the Union." The AFL or CIO, whatever. The UAW was enough for me.
CIO.
The CIO is enough for me. So while he's singing, and I have a very big voice, stentorian voice, I don't need microphones. When I would be in the street with Oscar and 10 of us were yelling, people would yell, "Israel, shut up! Israel, shut up!" I said, "What do you mean? There's 10 of us yelling, but they're all telling me to
And he didn't
shut
start to
up."
talk until he was about 6.
Four.
And he hasn't stopped then.
Only
So-
he was at the dinner table
Yeah.
eating, and nobody ever heard a word out of his mouth.
Until,
And then they interrupted him while he was eating, and he said, "Shut the fuck up."
He really said that?
Something to that effect.
no, actually, the first time I talked was a dumb lady come up, on the side of the kitchen.
Oh, it's another story.
And I was about 4, and the dumb lady passed out window.
Yeah, I remember
Go
that.
into that, and you can see the kitchen of the family across the
Right.
hall.
Yeah, that was exciting.
Oh boy! And so the elevator passes us, so I start yelling. That's the first thing my mother remembers.
Dumbwaiter.
I said, "You can't do that to us. We have a right to put our garbage in a dumbwaiter like anybody else. You can't." And my mother looked at me. You never said anything before. I had nothing to say before.
See, he was a troublemaker even from the
So I was worried about my rights as a 4-year-old kid. So where was I at?
So you were a naive kid being invaded
Oh,
by
I saw him at this
communists.
hootenanny,
Yeah.
and I started singing. Oh, you can't force me to join the union, to join the union, to join the union. Oh, you can't force me to join the union. The NAM is enough for me.
Yeah, and how did that go over?
Pretty singer looks at me like I'm a Michiganer. What's the...
Is that the first time you met him?
Oh, no, I met him a few times before, but something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I used to go to the hootenannies. I hated it just the way I hated masturbating. You know, I would say, never again, I'll never go to another hootenanny. The next Friday there would be a hootenanny, I would go there. You know, to hear all these things.
Where were they held?
They were held in Union Halls, in Webster Hall, Pythian Temple, you know, all kinds of places like that. Where I certainly was the only non-communist there. And then my mother used to criticize me, you know, Israel, you are stupid. You should have been a commie in AYD when you were 16 years old, and now you will live upstate New York in a villa. You will be rich now, instead of becoming a liberal lefty when you're 40 years old.
So how did the other people react to you? Did they try to...
They laughed.
Did they want you to join the AYD?
No, I never was asked by anybody.
And so then how did... when did you start your... you started a shop. When did you get the idea?
Well, it took a while. And that's part of my secret life that I almost prefer not to talk about.
Yeah. Why is
Because
that?
in 1969 I wrote a biography of my life, from 0 to 10 in the Bronx. And one day I wrote it in a week's period. And one day I realized there was no difference in my life between the age of 10 and the age of 29 when I opened the Folklore Center. No point writing anymore.
So
So the question is what I did in those 15 years or so. 15 years missing years.
So let's see.
And I would visit my friends at Harvard, all getting their PhDs and stuff like that. And they'd all say, look, Izzy, I'm getting a PhD in math, I'm becoming a doctor, I'm becoming a philosopher.
They were local kids, is that it?
Well, my friends, I went to high school science with,
Right.
even smarter friends from Stuyvesant. And they'd all say, we'd be sitting on the beach out somewhere in Massachusetts, I can't think of the name now. And they say, look, Izzy, we're all getting our PhDs now, what are you going to do? And I said, I like folk music. I had nothing else to say, I like folk music. Somehow I would survive with folk music, but I had no orientation, I had no idea I was going to do this.
So you had a record collection and so on?
I bought all the 78s that came out as they came out, and the 78s at that time were different than CDs today, because the 78s, if I bought a Frank Water album, or a Josh White album, or a Leadbelly album, or a PC album, it was the same thing I would hear at these parties, at Margot Mayo's.
Where were those parties? Where was the Margaret Mayo party?
We would rent just the way everybody. What was that place on Broadway where you Nola Studios?
And what
Nola
street was
Studios. Every actor, actress, dancer, musician
Yeah.
in the world
it? What street was that?
around 54th Street and Broadway. Every famous actor in the United States has been in Nola Studios.
So
And we would rent a studio room like for $2 an hour or something like that. You know, this way everyone else did.
So-
And then I learned the street numbers in Manhattan from 90s 59th Street was the new dance group with Pearl Freeman and all these other people. And I used to come an hour early to watch all these dancers. And we would rent their studio.
So
And now it
this
became a Playboy
woman was named Margot,
Mayo.
Did she have a
M-A-Y-O.
place
Yeah.
in
I never heard of her.
Brooklyn
What
College?
did she do? Did she have an institute, an organization she was
She had an organization called the American Dance Group,
I see. And
which was built
so
on
she was-
communist
was
principles.
she a dancer?
She was a dancer, a folklorist,
And
but she never got very far, and she couldn't make it in the world that was becoming commercial in the 50s when I was coming in.
so
So
where
I
is
was
she,
like her extension into modern times.
where is she now? Do you know? Or
Well, she's
what
dead.
did she do later?
She
Did she keep doing this the rest of her
she
life?
would teach. She never had a full-time job. She would teach in different schools. She would teach in a school on 12th Street or 5th
So she
Avenue.
was sort of bohemian artist then, right?
Well, she tried to make a living, but it was tough.
Right, and,
In other words,
you
in
think
those
she was
days,
a communist?
a lot of
She
women would
was, okay.
make a living in the Bronx too. You remember asking people go around teaching piano? Women would go around.
Yeah, but I thought that she was teaching in Brooklyn College. That's
No,
what
she was
I-
teaching. She would get little jobs here and
I
there.
think we're not gonna interrupt this, or we'll edit it some other time, we'll just keep going. because-
Right. Okay.
So you got the idea that, of opening, a store?
Well, it worked
Centered around
this
folklore.
way. I used to be a mascot of the bookshops on 4th Avenue.
Which book?
All of them.
Really?
Strand Bookshop used to go to all the time. Then
'Cause
my
I knew
main
those
place
books
was the
just,
Raven Bookshop.
Wiser?
Wiser,
Remember
oh yes.
Raven, that was on the, did you know,
That was on the west side of the street.
yeah, did you know the guy who, what's their names now?
Oh, the guy P.G.P. Briggs,
No, Briggs I knew too. but,
Biblio and Tannen.
Tanham,
The guy
Biblio
who became
Tannen on
above
Fifth
Brussels.
Avenue.
Did you know
What?
the Brussels?
That was the only job I ever had.
At Brussels?
I got $40 a week and I had to work like a son of a bitch.
Jesus,
And it was
must-
the greatest time I ever had
I
in my
must
life.
have come in your store.
What?
I must have, because I was up and down those areas.
So anyway, I used to, like at the Raven Bookshop, I would go by myself as a kid. I would buy Teddy Roosevelt's autobiography, whatever,
Oh, sorry,
25
yeah.
cents outside on the one of those books.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you a story about the Strand Bookshop. That guy that owned it, I can't think of his name now. He was a cheapo.
Mr. Strand. No, his name is, yeah, come on, I could tell you a story.
And Jack Russell, who I never understood until recently, he was a Russian immigrant. I just thought he was another Jewish guy. And we would go past.
We're gonna,
We would go past the Strand Bookshop, and Jack would pick a book off the 25-cent stand.
Yeah.
You know, every bookshop had his box of books that was the worst thing about working in the bookshops. You know, they had to schlep out those boxes
yeah,
every
well,
day.
what do you mean? That was the best thing.
Yeah, but the owner, me, well, I would have to schlep out these boxes.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would forget and leave the books out there overnight, and they were still there in the morning. They didn't care if you stole them or whatever. So Jack
I
did
know
this.
that. Once I took a 4-volume set of the New York State Legislature that had investigated communism during right after World War I. It was the best history of communism ever made until then. And it had pictures and everything. 4 fucking volumes. And I just carried it off.